Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of Channel Your Light, Own Your Intuitive with myself, Erin Chandler. I just want to touch base on some of the stuff that I know people in my communities are experiencing, and I have experienced myself too. And there's a couple of different labels of explanations for this, but it has to do with the emotional roller coaster, the sudden emotions coming up, DNA purges, and a couple of other different aspects of the energy right now. And it just kind of gives a broader perspective and the experience of it to help others move through it. In case this is helpful for you, this may be just the key. I'm seeing a giant key, the key that you need if you are experiencing sudden, intense emotions or an emotional roller coaster, those types of things that are happening, memories from past, all of those different things. So these are, for most people, coming up suddenly. They might feel like a trigger, something to that effect. Spirit keeps telling me that there are encased life force energies being released, and I'm being told to dive deeper into what that actually means. So, for example, I may have had a very negative or traumatic experience in this lifetime, and suddenly during this time frame or period, I will be reminded of that, and I will just have this overflow of emotion coming out. And it's sudden, and we have a tendency to push those emotions back, whether we think it's not ours, whether it is ours. We just have a tendency to push it back, particularly if it's an intense emotion. So I'm always shown encased life force energies in people's physical avatar and their spiritual subtle energy bodies. I'm always shown them as a circle that has a particular trauma associated with particular emotions that are encased in that circle. And usually it sits in their energetic field somewhere. So when we're having a DNA purge, and massive amounts of people are having a DNA purge right now, which is part of the ocean of emotion that came through in the dream. There's a lot of people, some of you may notice it yourself or with other people, it's this sudden swelling. It's actually the encased life force energy from a previous trauma or your DNA atoms that hold the compounded interest. If that piques your interest, you can go back to one of the channels earlier on this YouTube channel. Maybe I'll find it and link it there if I can figure out which one it was from, about compound interest and spirit and thought forms and emotions. So if we go back to the atom, the encased life force energy, when that encased life force energy gets removed or bursts, all of the thought patterns, the trauma, however it laid into your physical body, that all gets purged all at once too. That's why some of you have been feeling this roller coaster the entire year of 2024. If you are in the process of elevating, becoming a new version of yourself, you may be faced with these things along the journey. I know I have been too, shedding and purging. So some people label it as a DNA purge. It's a purging, a spiritual cleansing, because in essence, every experience that you have holds a record in your physical avatar or your body, your DNA, your atoms. And it's associated with thoughts. It's associated with emotions. So when one of those get trapped in the body, it creates fatigue or depression. That's actually coming from a book, which I will link in the bottom. That's how they describe encased life force energies, that it's just a traumatic experience with emotions attached to it that sits in the body that can create fatigue or depression. So for some of you who are elevating and doing your work, and you have these encased life force energies of traumatic experiences or emotions attached to those traumas that have not been released, and have found that you have trouble with motivation or doing things, or there's all these different aspects that come into play, but I'm being told to focus on the encased life force energy because it'll come up as emotion, because emotion is directly attached to the thought, and the thought is directly attached to the experience of the trauma or the negativity, whatever that scenario is for you. When we have a sudden pop of that encased life force energy, a type of DNA purge happens where it all just flows out and through you. If you are experiencing these sudden things, Please don't fight it, is what I'm hearing. This is a specific message for somebody on here. Do not make it fit. If it does not, if you are feeling like you're in a depressed state or you need help, please seek out the appropriate professional advice that you need. This is a very specific message for somebody who is highly attuned with their energy, their awareness of who they are, when they are okay and when they are not okay. They're able to recognize that this is just an emotion and are able to work through it. That's who this message is for. If that is not encompassing for you, I do highly recommend to seek out professional help, whether it's therapy, a suicide hotline, whatever that scenario is. So I don't want to negate and say, oh, it's just this and do that. You'll know if that message is for you, if you're feeling that really depressive state or it's so heavily burdened. I wish to tell you, they're playing a song, everything's gonna be all right. If you go to places for help, there will be people that will help you. So I'm being pulled back now to the encased life force energies for those of you who are experiencing these sudden flushes. So when that encased life force energy bursts or gets released or removed, my focus here is on the actual experience of that, how it floods through you. The reason why it feels this way, like the sudden flooding of emotion, you're releasing something that was stopping you from moving forward or weighing your energetic fields down. It can often feel like just this sudden overswell it could be just a thought, a memory, something from the past, or just a word that comes up. You may find you engage with people and it suddenly triggers it. It's bursting that encased life force energy, removing it, transmuting it. But in that process, we often experience it as a sudden swell of deep emotion. And you'll know this because it will feel like it's deep emotion. It's not like a surface empathy for somebody else. It's not like that. And in addition, you have to discern whether this is yours or someone else's. You're not here to process other people's emotions. You're actually here to process your own, because through processing your own, you actually end up being able to hold space or containers for others to do the same for themselves. So let's go back to the encased life force energy. These are all interweaving. I'm being told, Ava Hunt, one of my guides, are saying this is being interwoven because there's multiple different ways to view from, and there's people experiencing these DNA purges or the removal of encased life force energies. They're all experiencing them differently. So lean into that emotion and say, I release you. Thank you for all the lessons. That's how some people will deal with it. I know for me, simply leaning into it allows me to have a full flush through the body. Because remember, if you're releasing an emotion, you're also releasing the thought forms attached from the emotion. You're also releasing the DNA compounded trauma that's in your body at the same time. Mind, body, spirit. These are all being released at the same time. And there can sometimes be a tendency to suppress that back, but in truth, it's actually an encased life force energy that's holding you down or weighing you down that is actually trying to be released. So if you've experienced that, and it is, you'll know it's directly related to yours. I'm being told to show discernment in this. So show discernment. There are times when I experience extreme emotions where I know they are not mine because it's not associated with any of my experiences. It's a projection from outside of me. There are specific ways to identify if something is a projection of somebody else versus something that's from my own experience that I've experienced somewhere on my journey, that there was trauma around it, or there was emotions that I did not express about it. So right now there's massive amounts of people in the collective consciousness who are on the quote ascension unquote process, who are going through massive removals of encased life force energies, which held trauma, emotional trauma, DNA, all of those things. So you may look at this as a DNA purge. You can look at those things coming up for you, if they're yours, as a DNA purge, and just lean in and allow it to roll through you and out. I'm not sure why this is really important, but I feel like it is, because if you just lean in, you're able to release it. But if you hold back from it, it's almost like you can't release it because you're holding on to it because you don't want to feel that deep emotion, not recognizing that that deep emotion is going to free you. So this is important for somebody on here right now who I feel like is really struggling. Always discern if it's yours first. Always, always, always. I cannot stress that enough, particularly for those of you who are very, very sensitive. I say this for two reasons. One, you do not want to be spending your time distracted on other people's emotions and processing those and the weight of those when you're supposed to be focusing on something else. That's one thing. Two, you don't want to push away an emotion that is actually yours, thinking it's somebody else's, not wanting to deal with it because you're labeling it as somebody else's when it's actually yours. And then you push away the very thing that is yours that's trying to help you to release it. So it can happen in both ways. You always want to come to a discernment. It's always going to be attached to something from your experience, something that you know that you've had deep wounds around. It could be. There's a lot of different variant factors going on right now. The purpose of explaining this, I'm being told, is for those of you who are experiencing this real roller coaster. And there's times where it's like, what is going on, right? What is going on? The discernment, your spiritual intuition, or your intuition is intended to provide you with discernment. Is it mine? Then deal with it. And if it's not, then you can remove it. Ideally, what we're trying to do is everybody's looking for DNA upgrades and everybody's looking for purging, but there's a lot more involved in that when it comes to the physical earthly plane, because it's not just one thing, like I cry a tear or I write down this thing. It's all of the things happening at once. It's a DNA purge. It's encased life force energies, that bubble that I was describing that I always see it as. It's the bubble exploding, and that bubble contains the emotion, the thought forms with it, as well as the original trauma that affected or imprinted onto your, I want to say your subtle energy bodies or compounded into your physical body that's been weighing you down. It's that release of it. So DNA upgrades are happening. People always think of a DNA upgrade or I'm going to another level. I feel like we always tend to look at it as it's this beautiful, wonderful thing that's going to feel magical. And yes, it is. However, in the process, what's often forgotten is there's some mess in the process. So if I've decided I want to live without my traumas, I have to purge the traumas or anything associated with it that's not in alignment with the thing that I've asked for of living without trauma. If I want to be elevated or ascend to a fifth dimensional consciousness, that means any of the other consciousnesses that are not aligned with that fifth dimensional consciousness that I've set my sights on is all going to come up for review. I'm hearing it's going to come up for review. It's going to come up for all of these different things to be purged out of you because you've asked for this other alignment. So at this time, I know for me, every time that I decide that I'm going for a new goal, I go through this process. And sometimes I beat myself up over it. And other times I just lean in. And the more times I do this for different areas and different things, the more I'm able to lean in and just let go, like allow it to just roll through me. Because the second it does, it's like my energy got 10 times lighter. My energy got lighter. My thought forms got clearer. My heart felt more open. It's the releasing of encased life force energies. And for some of you, I'm being told that is the DNA upgrade. It's the purging and releasing. That is the upgrade because it's purging and releasing anything that's not in alignment with your true authentic self or your true core essence of who you are, which is benevolence, love, light, healing, compassion, all of those beautiful things. So anything that's taken away from that can be viewed at this time as a DNA purge as they come up. It is the bursting or the removal of encased life force energies. This also, for somebody on here, I'm being told to point out very specifically, you're actually also having encased life force energies of others removed from your energetic fields, from your subtle energy bodies, like somebody coming in and projecting their energy into yours, which some people call it muddying up the aura. Some people call it binding. Like there's all these different things that people label it as. And while there is a differentiation between each of them, they're all things that take away from your power or dull your energy or dim you down, I guess you could say. And when we have encased life force traumas that we have not dealt with, they create holes. I've talked about this before in the channel. they create holes in our auric field. So it's like having holes. If I have a boundary of energy around me, that's my central core energy moving from outside of me, but I have all these wounds and traumas and all these things. Our auric field, they always show it to me as a Swiss cheese. It's like has these empty holes where other people's energy can stream in and out because I haven't fulfilled within my own energy the thing that I need, which seals all the holes, tears, and weaknesses in my auric field. And rather, it contains all these Swiss cheese holes because of those traumas that I haven't dealt with. Because when we have traumas, it's almost like it's taking a piece of your pie outside of you being missing. Like if you look at yourself as the whole pie, that's so funny. I'm thinking about the lemon pie video that I did previously. But I'm being told it's like if I'm the whole pie, I'm the entire lemon pie, me, Erin, and I have a traumatic experience and a piece of my pie of Erin gets removed. It's almost like it gets taken out of that Swiss cheese hole, and then whatever that traumatic experience was, it just streams through and takes the place of my piece of pie. They're showing me somebody's pie. You have a pie that's the whole of you, and there's slices in there that are not yours that are black. There are black slices in the pie of the whole of you. So your job is to identify and remove those slices. I'm being shown it transmuting automatically just through the process of listening to the energetic frequency of this channel is what they're telling me at this time. And that is the sole purpose of Erin sharing this. It is to allow you to allow the release of the encased life force energies, releasing and transmuting any others' energies or any other intentional, malevolent, lower vibrational things or any traumas that you've had from yourself, all of those things. They're just showing me that piece of pie being removed and your piece being built up or called back to you so that you can be intrinsically whole in yourself. Encased life force energies, you could look at it as those pieces of the pie. I'm just showing it spiritually as bubbles within people's energy. And I always see it as contained in the bubble is trapped trauma, emotion, and thought formed as a result of an experience on the earth plane. So right now, we're removing any pieces of your pie that are not yours. And we're having a DNA upgrade, which means a DNA purge of the old DNA energies, old reptilian energy as well. I'm being quoted that specifically, releasing that in its totality, allowing it to flush and flow through us. There's such emotional resonance in this. I'm hearing for somebody on here, and just know that having that deep emotion or that purging is not a bad thing. It is part of this process right now. Moving to what we would call a new earth, or however people wish to label it as, does require a new way of doing things and a new way of being. And that also requires any encased life force energies that attach you to the old or keep you in that past loop I'm hearing. That's what's actually being purged at this time from your energetic fields. I also have a chorus of masters, guides, and teams here asking to, I'm just going to listen for a second here. All sentient beings are going through a specific DNA upgrade or a frequency heightening. It is natural in the heightening of a frequency on the earth plane and the electromagnetic fields for those energies that are not in alignment or do not have a resonance to automatically burst like life force encased energies. That is simply one description of the process that's happening on the earth plane at this time. The more we lean in and trust to the releasing of the old, it allows us to step into the new and a greater expanded consciousness. Old avatars, old DNA, old ways of being, old systems, and old tools are all being phased out. As the frequency is rise, they are unable to maintain that encasement. Therefore, the encasement is bursting at this time for different individuals on different paths and in different ways because the frequency is heightened enough that the encasement or the bubble cannot withstand the entrapment of it. That's what I'm hearing. The entrapment is automatically broken open to allow for the release of it. So that's part of what they're saying, that is that explanation is complete. Thank you. That explanation is complete so that somebody clearly, a starseed, needed to hear it in terms of that frequency process. So it's important also to understand that you can take one word and it has many labels, and all the many labels may all have the exact same meaning at the core frequency of it. Everything is a frequency or has a resonance of some type. I'm being quoted the Schumann resonance. You will notice at this time, the Schumann resonance through 2023 was rising and falling. There was a point at the beginning of 2023 where it rose to a certain state and came down a little, but you will also notice that it has maintained the higher frequencies throughout all of 2023, which was part of the preparation. As we have the bursting of encased life force energies of old DNA programming, old thought forms, old emotions. It is natural to have sudden epiphanies, understandings, or a paradigm shift or a perceptory change or shift. It's like no longer needing to view it from that aspect. It's suddenly, I'm being referenced at the looking glass. That's the first thing. That's a specific message for somebody on here about the looking glass. I want to say the looking glass project, but that's not the reflection or the thing that they're pointing to specifically for what they're trying to describe through me. So I'm hearing that's a message for somebody on here to know that you're looking at the right, or you're listening to the right channel, but it's not about the looking glass project. And I'm hearing somebody say, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But there might be double entendres for some people on here. That's your journey. Only take what fits. If there's a nudge or a push, recognize that that's for you and allow the resonance to come to you as it does. I'm not here to tell you it's wrong. I'm being told to point out the looking glass and the looking glass project, because they're two different things. There's the looking glass of the self, of the observer, observing, but there's also the looking glass project, which is a whole other thing over to the left over here. So back to this. I'm not sure why that came in, but I trust that it did for a very specific reason. So if we look at that frequency shift and change of the Schumann resonance and everything shifting and moving, that heightened frequency of the electromagnetic field of Gaia's core or the earth plane or the atmosphere, they're all going to be affected differently. It is natural for all of us to experience a shift as well. Remember, if there's a lot of low dense frequencies, it's easier for them to survive because that's the medium, I guess you could say. Whereas when the frequency rises and it maintains that higher frequency for a certain amount of time, like 2023, it allows all of the old lower dense vibrations to be shaken off for the encased life force energies to finally burst, because I'm hearing the encasements, because of the higher frequency, they're showing me the encasements just started chipping away slowly throughout 2023 for many of us here on the collective consciousness. So yes, Pluto is, Ava says, you could kind of look at Pluto in each individual's energy. If Pluto comes in and surrounds itself or merges with an encased life force energy, it will illuminate it, empower it, and then it will crumble because it's no longer needed. And that is actually the power of Pluto, which is also a sphere, just as the planets are spheres. You'll notice that they're all circles. They're all the infinite one, like the yin and the yang, the dark and the light, make a complete circle in tandem with each other. These are much the same things. She says, go back to Pluto again. She says, you could look at it encased life force energies as Pluto identifying what they are and helping you to shed them, helping you to release them because they can no longer be part of the foundation because of the heightened frequencies that are on the earth plane at this time, because that's now becoming the mean or the medium, means that all of those denser encasements or low thought form vibrations cannot hang on as long, as quickly. They tend to just get shed naturally in this process. I'm hearing the issue with this process is many people struggle with the process because for some it's very, very rapid at this time. For others, they don't quite understand what is going on. And sometimes when we don't understand what's going on, we have a tendency to stop and be like, what's going on? What's going on? And I'm being told to just, if you can relinquish that, if you know you're having this DNA purge based on what I've described, Just let go and let it move through you. Let it move through you and out you is what I want to say, because allowing something to move through you that's not yours is one thing, which is not what I'm talking about. Allow when it bursts the encased life force energy that you no longer need, that's associated with trauma, darkness, dark thought forms, illnesses. When that bursts, allow it to just be flushed through you. When it bursts, you will find that you are faced with all the thought forms associated with the emotion that's in the encased life force energy in that area of your DNA or your energetic fields. All the thought forms associated with it might show up, just so that we're clear. And when they do, when I say allow it to just move through you, allow those thoughts to be there and watch them flush out with the emotion. You can use a visualization technique to do this. If you wish to, you can call in the violet flame. The whole purpose of that is purifying. So many of us during this period have been going through a spiritual purification. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. If we're having a spiritual purification, we are also having a physical purification, because we're spiritual beings having a physical human experience in the physical 3D body. Anytime we do spiritual work, we make progress. It affects everything, your body, your emotions, and your thoughts. Whether you're starting with fixing the body or working on the body, or whether you're starting in the spiritual realms, they're all interconnected and operate as one. So it doesn't matter which end you started at, whether you started working on your emotional trauma, whether you started working on your physicality, whether you've been working on your spirituality. It doesn't matter which of these things you start with. They ultimately create a momentum of that frequency of everything evolving with it. That's an important message for somebody on here. It's not about spirituality. It's not about physicality. It's not about thought forms. It's not about emotions. It's about all of it, because they're actually all one process working together all the time. So this time frame right now, if you've been struggling with that roller coaster, I feel like this message is for you. I feel like this message is for you, just to help you roll with it. I know having the channels in our private community really helped getting that channeled higher guidance of, hey, it's a DNA purge. So, because it's a DNA purge is a DNA upgrade. They're the same thing. Technically, there's no ending without a beginning, and there's no beginning without an end. They go hand in hand. So right now we're just in a mass process collectively, whether it's understood or not understood, of having these encased life energies burst or broken down to the point where they can be purged rapidly and quickly. Simply lean in if you are experiencing that, and you will find that you move through it at such a rapid pace that I'm hearing you will be in awe of yourself to understand how far you've come, the things that you have learned from. It's like the pearls of wisdom. It's all that's left in your energy. I'm seeing this pile of like 1,000 pearls sitting in front of me. There's like this pile of 1,000 pearls that are the result of moving through the different versions, the different, the different encased life force energies or experiences. When those things are purged, you are left with these piles of pearls. This is a very specific message for somebody about pearls, and you will know exactly who you are, because you will feel that resonance. You will just know, your soul knows. So my friends, let me know if this is helpful or relevant for you in the comments. I know it is for me. I know it was for the members in our Divine Feminine community. Again, if you feel like you wish to be part of that community, it's a safe space where we are all about evolving, growth, all things spirit, intuition, our experiences, with a bunch of powerful, magical, incredible women. If you wish to join that Channel Your Light community, private community, you can find the link for that in the video description box below. We cannot wait to see you there. And as always, beautiful souls, I 1,000% want to know if this is helpful and relevant for any of you, because that's why I'm sharing it. I'm wishing you all much love, light, peace, healing, transcendence, and until next time.